Okay, hi all. Last time we did the tax, okay, the effect of taxes. We are gonna solve some questions. Actually, I solved some questions regarding how tax affects the equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. Now we saw consumer surplus and producer surplus, right? So with the tax, we will have some tax revenue, and in addition to that, we are going to have something called as deadweight loss. Okay, in this chapter we are going to see those. Okay, let's see. In this chapter we are going to look for the answers of these questions. How does a tax affect consumer surplus, producer surplus, and total surplus? We know that total surplus is maximized at the competitive equilibrium level, right? But we know that with the tax, either it comes to the consumer or to the seller, it is decreasing the quantity, competitive equilibrium quantity. So if the production is below the equilibrium quantity, we are going to have some deadweight loss. Okay, so total surplus is not maximized. And what will happen then? What is deadweight loss of a tax? What factors determine the size of the deadweight loss? How does tax revenue depend on the size of the tax? Okay, now let's have some review from chapter 6. A tax drives a wedge between the price buyers pay and the price sellers receive, right? So with the tax, we are going to have two equilibrium points. Initially, it was one, right? Buyers paid the same price with the sellers, what sellers obtain, okay? And it raises the price buyers pay and lowers the price sellers receive, and it reduces the quantity bought and sold, equilibrium quantity. These effects are the same whether the tax is imposed on buyers or it is imposed on sellers. So we do not make a distinction in this chapter. So we are going to just talk about the tax. So let's look at the effects of a tax. So equilibrium with no tax is this. Equilibrium price is PE and equilibrium quantity is QE. Okay. Equilibrium with tax with a size of T, buyers pay PB and sellers receive PS. Okay, so after and quantity falls to QT. Okay, then revenue from tax will be this pink area, right? Tax is the PB minus PS times quantity QT. Okay, quantity after the tax. Okay, next we apply welfare economics to measure the gains and losses from a tax. We determine consumer surplus, producer surplus, tax revenue, and total surplus with and without tax. Okay, so tax revenue can fund beneficial services like education, roads, police. So we included in total surplus. Okay, even health in here, right? So some doctors are complaining that some patients are coming and saying, you got the wages from the taxes that I am paying, right? So, but doctors are so valuable for us. We should hold them up high, even in these, especially in these COVID times. Okay. So the effects of a tax, and this thing is valid for any worker who works for the government in a public institution, right? So since the government is paying our monies, we are working with the government funds, and they are mostly coming from the tax, not only doctors. Okay, so this is the effect of a tax. Without a tax, so consumer surplus will be what? The area between demand curve and the price, equilibrium price, which is A plus B plus C. Okay, and producer surplus will be D plus E plus F. Okay, and tax revenue is zero because there is no tax yet. So this is without tax. So total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F. Okay, so this whole triangle. Okay, now after the tax, so quantity, equilibrium quantity falls to QT. Okay, And consumer surplus, which is the area between price paid by the buyers and the demand curve, which is the area A, is the consumer surplus. And producer surplus is price obtained by the sellers, which is PS, and the area between PS and the supply curve. Okay, and tax revenue. So this is PB minus PS is the tax. Okay, and QT is the total amount of sold with the tax. So B plus D is the tax. Okay, but in the total surplus, we had also C plus E, right? C plus E was belonging to the total surplus as well. Then what happened to it? Okay, the total surplus will be A plus B plus D plus F. Okay, and there is no C plus E. Okay, so the tax reduces total surplus by C plus E. Okay, so this C plus E is called as deadweight loss. Okay, C plus E is called as deadweight loss of the tax, the fall in total surplus that results from a market distortion such as a tax. Okay, about the deadweight loss, because of the tax, the units between QT and QE are not sold. Okay, but this was gonna have some buyers and sellers, right? So the value of these units to buyers is greater than the cost of producing them. So the tax prevents some mutually beneficial trades. Okay, so the sellers and buyers in this triangle couldn't trade, and this is decreasing the total surplus. Okay, now so this is the market for airplane tickets. Okay, so sorry, this graph is also shifted. The numbers shift. Compute consumer surplus, producer surplus, and total surplus without a tax. Okay, so then you're gonna find the area of this triangle, right? Because consumer surplus will be the area between equilibrium price and demand curve, and total producer surplus will be the area between equilibrium price and the supply curve. And then with the tax, okay, so this is the equilibrium price, this is the area between price and the demand curve, and this is the area between price and the supply curve. So total surplus is the sum of those triangles, yellow and green triangles. Okay, now $100 tax on airplane tickets. Okay, now so this is the price paid by buyers and price obtained by the sellers. Then consumer surplus, it will be this new yellow area. This is the producer surplus, this green area. This is tax revenue, pink area. And total surplus is this. The remaining part, this purple area, is deadweight loss. Okay. What determines the size of the deadweight loss? Okay, which goods or services should government tax to raise the revenue it needs? Okay, so what would be the aim of the government to have like minimum deadweight loss? Okay, one answer: those with the smallest deadweight loss. Okay, when is the deadweight loss small versus large? Turns out it depends on the price elasticities of supply and demand. Recall the price elasticity of demand or supply measures how much QD or QS changes when P changes. Okay, so when supply is inelastic, it is harder for firms to leave the market when the tax reduces PS. Okay, then the cause deadweight loss will be low, right? So the tax only reduces Q a little, okay, and deadweight loss is small, okay. The more elastic is supply, the easier for firms to leave the market when the tax reduces PS. The greater Q falls below the surplus maximizing quantity in this case, and the greater will be the deadweight loss, okay. So the more, so if the supply is more elastic, deadweight loss will be greater with the tax. Okay. How about the elasticity of the demand? Okay. This is the inelastic demand, right? So it is steep, and it's harder for consumers to leave the market when the tax raises PB. So the tax only reduces Q a little, and that weight loss is small. Okay, and but if the demand is elastic, if it is less steep, then the easier for buyers to leave the market when the tax increases PB. So the more Q falls below the surplus maximizing quantity, and the greater dead weight loss will be. Okay, example. Would the dead weight loss of a tax be larger if the tax were on breakfast cereal or sunscreen? So remember these examples from the elasticity chapter, right? So we are going to determine which one is high, which one has higher dead weight loss according to the elasticity of demand or supply. Okay, breakfast cereal or sunscreen, hotel rooms in short run or hotel rooms in the long run. So groceries or meals at the fancy restaurants. Okay, so which one is more elastic, breakfast cereal or sunscreen? It's breakfast cereal, right? So if it is breakfast cereal, it is more elastic, then it's going to cause higher dead weight loss. So the government should tax sunscreen more. If the aim is, aim of the government is to lead lower dead weight loss, then sunscreen is more inelastic, so it should tax sunscreen. Hotel rooms in the short run or hotel rooms in the long run. Okay, hotel rooms in the long run has a more elasticity. So if it charges a tax, hotel rooms in the long run, then it's gonna have higher dead weight loss. Then it should tax hotel rooms in the short run. Groceries or meals at the fancy restaurants. So meals at the fancy restaurants is a luxury good. Okay, so it is more elastic. So it should charge groceries then. Groceries are more inelastic. Okay. Okay. Breakfast cereal more close substitutes. So demand more elastic. A tax on breakfast cereal would cause larger dead weight loss. Okay. So if the government's aim is to lead a lower dead weight loss, it should tax sunscreen. Okay. Hotel rooms. Yeah, price elasticity, demand supply for hotel rooms are larger in the long run than in the short run. So a tax on hotel rooms would cause a larger dead weight loss in the long run than in the short run. Okay. So groceries or meals at fancy restaurants. Okay. Groceries are more necessity, so less price elastic. So a tax on restaurant meals would cause a larger dead weight loss than a tax on groceries. Okay. So the government must raise tax revenue to pay for schools, police, etc. To do this, it can either tax groceries or meals at the fancy restaurant. Okay. So government can have two different. At the beginning of this course, okay, we are talking about trade-offs, right? So there is a trade-off between efficiency and equality, right? So efficiency is telling you what? So in order to maximize this, in order to maximize total surplus, equilibrium quantity should be produced, right? But we are discussing that if the demand curve is more elastic, if a tax comes to a demand curve that's more elastic, then it will cause a higher dead weight loss. If the government cares about efficiency, then it's going to consider taxing groceries instead of taxing fancy restaurants. But it's not fair, right? So because fancy restaurants, who goes to fancy restaurants? Wealthy people may go to fancy restaurants. So it may be better to take from them and give it to the poor, right? So it may lead to higher equality. Okay. So this is not an easy question to answer. Okay. So the effects of changing the size of the tax. Policymakers often change taxes, raising some and lowering others. What happens to dead weight loss and tax revenue when taxes change? we explore this next. Okay, so dead weight loss and the size of the tax. Initially, the tax is T per unit. Okay, T per unit. So this is initial dead weight loss. Suppose now tax is 2T. Okay, so you're gonna have doubling the tax will lead this to red curve. So quantity will go down from Q1 to Q2. Okay, so that weight loss will increase more than twice. Okay, so this is new dead weight loss, this larger triangle. Okay, this pink area is added to the orange one for in terms of dead weight loss. Okay, initially the tax is T per unit, so tripling the tax will cause more than triple. Okay, so when a tax increases, dead weight loss rises even more. Okay, so that weight loss will have like a convex curve with the tax size. Okay, so implication, when tax rates are low, raising them doesn't cause much harm, and lowering them doesn't bring much benefit. But when tax rates are high, raising them is very harmful, and cutting them is very beneficial. Okay, so revenue and the size of the tax, for instance. So this was the revenue, right? So with the tax, PB minus PS times Q1, this is the area of the tax revenue when the tax is T. Suppose tax rate is doubled, okay, then what will happen? So the quantity after the double tax will be Q2. Okay, this is the price paid by the buyers, this price obtained by the sellers. This pink area is the new tax revenue. Okay, and when the tax is larger, increasing it causes tax revenue to fall. Okay, if you triple it, this is the new rectangle you would obtain for the tax revenue. Okay, this purple one. Okay, so there is something called as Laffer curve, shows the relationship between the size of the tax and tax revenue. Okay, so in the y-axis you're going to have tax revenue, in the x-axis you're going to have tax size. So Laffer curve will be something like this. Okay, so if you have a low tax, increasing it will lead to a higher tax revenue. But if you already have a high tax, then increasing it will decrease your tax revenue. Okay, so what we covered in this chapter, so a tax on a good reduces welfare of buyers and sellers. Okay, this welfare loss usually exceeds the revenue the tax raises for the government. The following total surplus, consumer surplus, producer surplus, and tax revenue is called dead weight loss of the tax. A tax has a dead weight loss because it causes consumers to buy less and producers to sell less, thus shrinking the market below the level that maximizes total surplus. Okay, so because quantity drops to below the equilibrium level. Price elasticities of demand and supply measure how much buyers and sellers respond to price changes. Therefore, higher price elasticities imply higher dead weight loss. One of the aim for the government while putting the taxes can be to minimize dead weight loss. Okay, if it is so, it is gonna tax the goods that are more inelastic. Okay, an increase in the size of tax causes dead weight loss to rise even more. An increase in the size of the tax causes revenue to rise at first. Okay, tax revenue, but eventually revenue falls because the tax reduces the size of the market. So this is Laffer curve is telling you. Okay, so this is all for chapter 8. Please let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, where is the Zoom? Okay, stop.